I feel the spirit moving in me. I feel the spirit moving in me.
Aloha! Welcome to Unity Church of Maui's Sunday service. It's great to have you with us today. Thank you for being here. So, what do you do to spur you on creatively? Do you have a routine or do you have a ritual that you practice? What do you do to get your creative energy flowing? Or do you? Or do you have it flowing? Would you like to get it flowing? Well, I hope so, because that's kind of the intention of this talk today, is to, what can we do to get ourselves so connected to Spirit that our creative energy flows easily and gracefully through everything that we do? Because we are creative beings where our soul desires to be creative. So welcome to humankind, and welcome to this great opportunity that we have to be creative. I looked at some of the work of Salvador Dali this week, and he's got a great practice, or had a great practice for touching into his creativeness. What he would do, he would lay on his couch, and in his hand he would hold a spoon, and he would extend it out over the end of the couch, or the side of the couch, and below his hand on the floor was a plate. And what he would do is he would fall asleep, and then when he would actually go into a deep sleep, he would relax, drop the spoon, it would crash on the plate, and he would wake up, and then he'd run to his drawing board to capture whatever images he had in his mind. And maybe that explains how bizarre his images were. Have you looked at some of his work recently? I haven't looked at it in probably 30 years, but it was fun to look at some of his paintings today. And they're really a trip. I highly advise you and recommend that you do so. I think you'll get a kick out of it. You know, we are creative beings. We create the nature and reality of our life based on what we think, based on what we do, based on what we feel, based upon what we believe and how we act in the world. Isn't that great that we have this amazing ability to create? And this talk today is titled Energizing Creativity While Sheltering. So many folks have come to me and said, you know, I'm just bored, I don't know what to do, I sit on the couch all day without a spoon and a plate, but I just wish I could find something to do. And so what about being creative? What about energizing your creative spirit during this time of sheltering in? And you say, well, you know, what does create mean? To me, create means to bring forth something that's new, to bring forth something that maybe is old, maybe bringing forth something new out of something old. You know, the creative process often begins with the dying of something that has been. And I think that's maybe why some of us have a difficult time with creativity, because it means letting go of the way we used to do things and stepping into something that's brand new. Does that sound exciting? Some people are probably going, oh no, I don't want to do that. I want to do what I've always done and be creative that way. Well, this is a time of taking a journey into a new way of being creativity. And so sometimes that means dying of an old form so that a new form can be embraced. You know, sometimes things have to fall apart before they get better. You know, sometimes, you've heard the expression, sometimes there has to be a breakdown before there can be a breakthrough, right? And so getting into this essence of creativity can sometimes create what feels like a breakdown. And I think, too, getting into this place of creativity can help us to rise out of kind of a depression. You know, I like to think of a depression is something that is pressed down, right? And it's like there's a tension that's formed by this continued pressure pressing down, and it can feel like it's inescapable, or we can feel like we're stuck, or we're disempowered. And it's in order to raise up out of that depressed state, we have to connect with our creative spirit. And I think that's a lot of what it is. It's like all that energy is in there and wants to be released because it's been pressed down. And so we get to raise it up and express it and expend it and use it the way that this creative force wants to be used in our lives. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "One must have chaos in oneself in order to give birth to a dancing star." Oh, I love that. What an image, huh? That dancing star is within us. That, stars are suns, right? So they're like light. They're like energy within us that wants to be expressed. And sometimes we have to experience chaos so that we can have a breakthrough and let that dancing star out. Wow. Are you ready? Are you ready to let that dancing star out? Yeah? So Nietzsche acknowledges that this creative time can be difficult, it can be challenging, and it can seem to be destructive. But chaos prepares the way for this dancing star to express itself and to be born and to produce a new and higher expression. The creative energy is within you. It wants to be unleashed. It wants to be revitalized. It wants to work through your thoughts, through your action, through your spirit to produce a higher expression, maybe than you've ever seen before. And the chaos can be a way for this expression to take place. Henley claims his freedom to determine his own life and his own circumstances when he wrote these words in his poem, Invictus. He writes, "I am the master of my soul. I am the captain." He writes, "I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." Wow, I love that. The master of my fate. The life of the poet William Ernest Henley offers a stellar example of this principle in action. In this poem, Invictus, Henley claims his freedom to determine his own life circumstances. And he's giving us an example through his life and through his poem or what he can do, of what he did and what we can do. His life was quite difficult. A lot of people know this poem, and most people that know the poem know this particular phrase, but not everybody knows about his life. And his life is what really stands out, is amazing. He was born in 1849 in England, and from the age of 12, he suffered from tuberculosis of the bone. Have you ever heard of that? I've never heard that there could be tuberculosis in the bones, which resulted in the amputation of his left leg just below his knee down. And it also caused his right foot to become diseased. And he continued to have long stays in the hospital, which interrupted his efforts to establish himself as a journalist. Yet he remained, as he writes, bloody but unbowed. It's like, what an image, right? Yeah. But he's saying that he was so dedicated to wanting to be a journalist that in spite of the blood, in spite of the pain, he kept his focus on being unbowed. And he kept his focus on this creative energy that he wanted to express and wanted to express itself through him. You know, Henley's work has inspired many, many people, and perhaps one of the most notable people that has been inspired by Henley's work is Nelson Mandela, who frequently recited Invictus to other prisoners where he was, who were incarcerated with him in Robben Island. You know, Henley's creative response to challenges is so inspiring. According to Mandela, this poem expressed his own commitment to freedom, to self-determination. And he credits Henley for giving him the spiritual support and the inspiration to help him to be motivated to end apartheid. Wow, that's incredible. So what can we glean from Henley's life? And I think that there's a number of things that we can learn if we look at his life and we look at his work. But I sort of see three basic principles that he demonstrates in his life and that we can learn from. And if we consider the quote, "I am the master of my fates. I am the captain of my soul." The first line says, "I am the master of my fate." That is such an incredible, powerful affirmation. You know, I like to think when we use the words "I am," we are engaging the higher creative self within us. You know, we're engaging, I even think it goes further than that. Not only are we engaging our subconsciousness, our consciousness, we're engaging what I like to call the super consciousness, which is the consciousness of spirit that's everywhere in the universe. So we're engaging all of that when we say, "I am," right? Especially, I think, if we think of it that way, it's like we're tapping into the higher power that's within us and the higher power of creativity, which is everywhere in the universe. You know, "I am" is our God mind. And I think that affirmations that use "I am" are so powerful. And when I use "I am" statements, I like to engage them with energy and with feeling, because I know that when I engage my feeling nature, that my whole body, the trillion or however many cells I have, sort of all stand up at attention. You know, if I say, "Wow, I am creative and I am powerful," it's like, whoo, they're all standing up and saying, "Aye, aye, Captain, which way do you want to go?" Right? You can feel that when we engage that power. And that's engaging the power of our spirit and of our beingness. I love affirmations. I love to say, "I am creative. I am powerful. Whew, I am creative, and I am using the creative power of the universe in all that I do." Say that with me. I just made that up. I think it's pretty cool. I am creative, and I am using the creative power of the universe in everything that I do. You know, now if you look around, you see everything is standing up and responding to you. But in a sense, I think it's true, because we're opening ourselves up and saying, "I am willing, I am able, I am present to experience and express the truth of who I am." So if you thought the first of the three things I'm going to talk about was exciting, I even think the second one is even more exciting. And this one is to, again, it's representative of Henley's life. And despite of all of the things that were going on with his body and his health, he acted as if he could not fail. Now imagine that for you. How would it be for you if you acted as if you could not fail? What would you do? How would you feel? If you could just cast all that doubt and all that fear away, and you just stood in that truth and decided, I'm going to do something that's out of the box because I know I can't fail. Just a little while ago, I was presented with that question. Emily asked me, what would you do if you could not fail? And it's like, wow, I had that answer already. I've known that answer most of my life. And that would be that I would be Cyrano in the play Cyrano de Bergerac. And I love that play. I've read it at least 12 times, maybe more. And you know, as soon as I said it, I'm like, oh yeah, right, like that's going to happen. And she says, well, what if you do that? What if you create a Sunday talk based on that play? And immediately I was like, well, yeah, I can do that. I would love to do that. And so I really got into the play, made the commitment. Have to admit, I did face some fear that going into it is like, how am I going to do this? And oh my God, I knew that would mean that I would do a monologue from that play that I did 50 years ago when I was in high school. Has it been that long? I can't do the math right here, but I'm pretty sure my 50th reunion is coming up this year. So 50 years ago, I did this monologue. So I want to learn this monologue. And I got into this play like I've never looked at it before. In fact, it was earth-shaking for me what I found, because every time I read this play, and even in acting it out, I get emotional. And I discovered this time in working with this play that the reason I get emotional is because there are parts of me in that play, in the character of Cyrano and in the character of Roxanne. There are parts of me, parts of who I have been. That part of them that could not love has been me. I mean, if it wasn't for this work in unity and the truth teachings that I've worked with for 30 years, I might still be there. You know, I'd sit in the services when I first discovered unity and just cry, as that stuff was released through me. And now, because of that work, because of that, what if you can't fail, led to an incredible awakening for me. So what would you do if you knew you could not absolute fail? What are you willing to do? Are you willing to suspend your fear? Are you willing to suspend your judgment of yourself and step into a new way of being? Are you willing to step into somebody else's judgment and step beyond it and be able to experience the truth of who you are? Are you willing to step outside your comfort zone? You know, the best use of our creative superpower lies beyond our comfort zone. I'll say that again. Maybe that's one of the most important things in this talk. But the best use of your creative superpower, that's the higher power within you in the universe, lies beyond your comfort zone. So that means that if we're going to fully experience the truth of who we are, we got to get over ourselves. We got to step into this place that doesn't feel so comfortable and try on something new and exciting and powerful. So imagine what that's like for a minute for you, to step into this place, to step out of your comfort zone into a place that maybe doesn't feel so comfortable, so that you can experience your powerful self. You know, you might ask, well, why is it important to try new things? Or why is it important to be creative? And I think it's part of who we are as human beings, as spiritual beings having a human experience, to be creative. And scientists have discovered recently that when we are creative, when we learn a language, when we do something that's really creative, we're activating neural pathways in our brain that were dormant before. And using these neural pathways, they're finding can actually lessen the possibility of Alzheimer's. It's like, wow, I'm all about that. How about you? So envision what you want to experience. See it happening. Imagine what it feels like. Imagine that sensation that you're going to get when you get into this creative experience. Imagine how that's going to feel when you're, that feeling of the opening up of these parts of your brain and new possibilities. It's really exciting. Hindley, who became a successful journalist, publisher, and an editor, worked for some of the topmost writers of the day, thrived in his life as a result of seeing beyond appearances, beyond limitation, and imagined the best for himself. So the third thing that we can glean from Hindley's life is forgiveness. To forgive the past. He never resented the fact that his body gave him so many challenges. In fact, he saw that it was in his freedom to experience his fullness that he was able to experience the fullness of himself in spite of the diseases that he had. Rather than allowing this debilitating illness to confine him, he rose triumphant over it and moved forward with courage and confidence. That's what I'm talking about. That's how I want to live my life. How about you? Hindley's life inspired Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. And Stevenson actually modeled his character of Long John Silver after Hindley. Wow. He was a maimed and stalwart character, much like Hindley. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. So, in order to be masters of our fate and captains of our soul, we need to forgive the past, to move past our past, to let it go, to love it, and to release it. Releasing the past is a key to our creative expression. Because if we're hanging on to regrets or resentments about the past, we cannot be clear channels for the creative possibilities to move through us, because those things that we're holding on to become blocks that keep us from fully expressing and experiencing who we are. So the key really is to see whatever has happened to us in the past as happening for us and not against us. It's like, the challenges that we have faced in our life have made us who we are, have made you who you are. So if we can see these challenges, these sometimes dreadful things as opportunities to experience our fullness, to see these challenges as catalysts for our greater expression. It's almost like these wounds that we had in the past, we're turning them into stepping stones. And I often think of the journey of that caterpillar, right? And surrounding itself with a chrysalis so that a butterfly can be born. Sometimes it can feel, when we're having a difficult time, that we're kind of stuck, and bound, and we're stuck in this tight place. And the key to that, really, the key to becoming a butterfly is to move past that chrysalis and to open it up and to open our wings and to fly. By forgiving the past, we really allow the gifts of the past to inspire us today. Like Hindley, we can use I am statements, to connect with our higher selves, to connect with the fullness of our unconscious mind, our subconscious mind, and our conscious mind. And using these affirmations help us to connect with these places and to unite them so that they can work together to design a perfect creative way for us to be. And the second thing we can do is to act as if we cannot fail, to have that kind of courage to discover what it is that wants to be in us, in you. And the third thing we can do that's so powerful is to forget the past, or not to forget the past, to forgive the past, to realize it was part of what ultimately has us being what we are, the powerful expressions of spirit. You know, the truth of it is nothing can ultimately confine or limit us. Nothing can ultimately confine or limit you. The thing that limits us more than anything else is our own thoughts, our own doubts, our own fears, our own feelings. We are centers of divine mind, right? We are expressions of wholeness. We are expressions of the infinite. We are expressions of the creative energy, and we just need to get out of our way so we can experience the fullness of that creative power. Woo! Brene Brown said, there's no such thing as non-creative, she said there's no such thing as creative and non-creative people. Only people who use their creativity and people who don't. I want you to be one who does. I want me to be one who does. Andrew Jackson said, of every study known to mankind, not one says that there's a correlation between IQ and creativity. And then he said, this is good because it means every one of us can be more creative. And I love this statement. He says, it's a damn poor mind that can't think of at least two ways of spelling any one word. I love that. I wish I could have told that to my elementary school teachers, that, hey, Andrew Jackson said that it's okay to spell words in 2 or 3 different ways. So the desire to create is one of the deepest desires of the human soul. It is the essence of who we are, to be and to do. And creativity is available to you. It's an infinite power that's always at your disposal, ever at your beck and call. And you can activate it by declaring, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Say that with me. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And I know that that's true. God bless you. Namaste. So let's take a deep breath. Feels like I said that all in one breath. And let's join together for a short meditation. I invite you to close your eyes. Breathing in. Wow. Feeling this creative energy that's right here present. Right now, do you feel it? I know that there's 1 trillion cells in your body and mind that are going, whoa, baby, let me out. Let me be creative. Let's go. Let's do something. Let's be something. I invite you to breathe into those 1 trillion cells and say, yes, we are creative. We are meant to be creative. To be creative is the desire of our soul. Breathing in and breathing out. Feeling the energy in this moment. Giving thanks to Spirit for this opportunity to be together and to recognize that we have this desire, that we have this ability and this power to create. Thank you, loving Spirit. So let us go forth from this time and this place, enlightened with the activity of Spirit, engaged in the creativity of our lives, creating peace and love and joy, books and poems and happiness in everything we do. And I invite you to begin to open your eyes and to bring your awareness back to this moment. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you, Spirit. Woo! So I invite you now to prepare your tithes and your love offerings and your contributions to Unity Church of Maui. And however you want to do that, in your mind or physically. But I'd like to thank you in advance for your gifts, because it is your gifts that allow us to continue to do what we are doing. Even in this challenging times, we are prosperous. And I give thanks to you for this prosperity that we're sharing. And I know that as you contribute your material gifts to this ministry, that in the same way you are contributing from your heart and your soul to the goodness of all humankind. And I feel so blessed to be in your company. So thank you. So as we hold our gifts, let's pray and affirm together our prayer for prosperity, which begins, through a grateful, giving heart, my mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. Amen. And we've got just a few announcements today. Let me see. Next week my talk is titled Only Love is Real. A few years ago, and a number of years ago now, a friend and I made kind of a bad deal. And as a result, he took $2,000 from me. And actually, if I figure everything that's involved, it was probably closer to $4,000. And I felt really angry. I felt really disappointed. And I watched a documentary about a Tibetan man who was held in prison, and he was tortured. And I saw how he coped with this situation. And I was able to kind of see myself in his shoes and see he in my shoes. And seeing him in that way changed my perspective. And I look forward to telling you the rest of the story next week. So that'll be happening right here at Unity Church of Maui at 10 o'clock, live on Facebook and in our YouTube video next Sunday morning. And as you know, Emily and I are preparing to do a workshop titled Dismantling Racism. Seems like this is the perfect time right now. Racism in our country, racism in our world, and even racism in our islands is up right now. And we've been talking a lot about how do we be with it? What is ours to do? What is ours to be? What can we do to create healing in ourselves so that we can be present in a loving way to what's happening? And admittedly, we're not experts, but we have been doing some studying and plan to do more. And we'd like to invite you to be a part of this workshop. It will be on Zoom, and it'll start on August 6th on a Thursday. It'll be from 7 to 8:30 at night. And we'll be looking at different videos, listening to podcasts, and reading books and articles about racism. And then our Zoom calls will be conversations about, how can we be? What can we do? What can we learn? And so I'd really love for you to join us on August the 6th at 7 o'clock. And if you want to know more about that, you can call Emily at 808-268-8310, and she can give you more information. And you can also sign up to be part of our powerful workshop at that time. And after the service today, we will have a Zoom call at 11 o'clock on Sunday, and we'll talk about this talk and perhaps the upcoming workshop and anything else that you want to talk about. And you can find a link to this Zoom meeting on our webpage, unityonmaui.org, or in our newsletter. And also, another Zoom meeting on Wednesday at noon. We do the daily word and half-hour meditation. So we would love to connect with you during those times. Helps us to hold and keep our community together. So thank you for being a part of all of that. And if you enjoy our messages, you can always go to Unity Church of Maui's YouTube page, and you'll find an abundance of talks and music there for your for your soul's delight. So please do that, and like us while you're there as well. That helps to for us to know that you're there and paying attention, and that our work that we're doing is valuable. So at this time, without further ado, and before I do anything further, why don't we pray together the prayer for protection, which begins, "The light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is." Thank you for being here today. God bless you. Mahalo, and see you soon. Aloha.